All right. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, so I'm going to open space for us and let me invite in all your guardian angels and guides, the archangels, the ascended masters, the divine mother and father, and all their holy beings of light who would like to assist with this guidance for us tonight. And I'm going to ask that the message, wisdom, and guidance that comes through be for our best and highest, and the best and highest good of all concerned. All right, so where to begin? So here we are at the end of 2022. So a little recap, 2022, and if you add the 2 + 0 + 2 + 2, the 2022 energy was the 6th universal year. So this year, the theme was home, family, community, connection, healing, and creativity. And so a lot of people were adjusting to a new forms of friendship, new forms of community, connection. For example, I had some losses at the end of last year. And so this year looked different in how I leaned on a support system. I had to open up to different kinds of support in different people. So when I was sharing my newsletter recently, I had received some feedback that some people were also in that space of unplugging, becoming more adjusting to the new family paradigms, adjusting to how they wanted to be in the world. I connect with a lot of healers. I work with a lot of healers, and a lot of us have been making adjustments where I've been doing this work for 15 years now, and I have been in service working for a large part of those years, where the last couple of years, I feel like I've been slowly unplugging and coming into this space of my own home, my own body, my own connection, understanding myself. So for me, this year was about my own body and home, and my own home myself, cozying up. I have not been in the office, or I hadn't been in the office in 2020 and 2021. And so now, many of us have had a lot of change and transformation in our own family dynamics. I talked earlier in my newsletter about how the spiritual community has changed. There are many people who have kind of branched off into their own modalities, in their own energies. I had a friend that when I first started working, we used to spend hours at lunches together. And I remember thinking, God, I'd give anything to have one of those 3-hour lunches. So the 6 has a tendency to bring up those old dynamics of what home and family and community and connection look like. And this year, a lot of people were navigating what that was. And, a lot of us are introverted. A lot of us are in a space of, it takes a lot for us to open up. And so coming into, especially with the intensity of the world, it's been challenging. A lot of people have been in a space of feeling recluse. So on this 9-year cycle, so Mother Earth, she in 2022 is in a 6 of her 9-year cycle. Her cycle started in 2017. And when I entered that year, I prayed a lot on what the theme of her 9-year cycle was going to be. And the energy that I kept getting was reintegrating the energy of true love, back on this planet. And so what does that mean? So a lot of people in the beginning of 2017, 18, 19 were making adjustments with the way they shared energy, doing a lot of deep inner healing, and separating from the paradigms of fixing and saving and changing and making better. We started to unplug from a lot of those relationships, right? There's been a lot of people that have been learning about the karma of relationships, and especially earth angels, how we want to share or not. A lot of us have been working with boundaries, right? That's like a buzzword out there, and being able to say no, no, thank you, and finding this true love of self, right? And many people have been in a space of, what does that true love mean? So in the beginning, the 17, 18, 19, there was a lot of teaching about relationships and soulmates and twin flames and these fiery, passionate relationships. And there were a lot of divorces. There were a lot of learning about where we fit in these relationships. And we were separating from doing for everyone, even people in the family dynamics, right? If you have been an earth angel who has been available for everyone to the point where it creates either a depression or a sadness or a depletion, a lot of people have been working up until this point on how to make adjustments, right? And so when I say boundaries, it's how we give and we receive, how we share, and how we pull back and recharge so that we're feeling energetically abundant. And there's been a lot of loss for people up until this point. And so now here we are at the end of 2022, and we're entering the latter of the cycle of Mother Earth's 9-year cycle. And so there's a lot of people now who understand the beauty of love and the love that flows within us. We've become more soft and open, right? But then also very protective of the gifts that we have. And so here we're now getting ready to go into 2023. So 2023 is a 7. If you look at a 7, 7 looks back at all the numbers before. So 7 looks back at 1 through 6. So if you're feeling now, you're in a space of review, looking back, kind of evaluating, this is the space to be in. Now, on top of it, Pluto so the Pluto return, Pluto has come around and has nestled itself in the US astrology chart. And it does this every 246 years. And so it dropped in February 20th, 2022. It had another time this year, and then it just dropped back in for the 3rd time on December 28th. So Pluto is the energy of power, purging, and transformation. So it's not uncommon that in these powerful energies, people start to question, what am I doing? Where are we going? It's not uncommon for people to start feeling depressed, And for me, I find that depression is a call back to self, especially if you have been coming out of the holidays with a lot of giving and a lot of sharing. On top of that, Mercury, our friend Mercury, has just gone retrograde, and it's in the sign of Capricorn. And so this enhances the power of the mind. And when we're usually at the end, everything or lessons become intensified. So for the next couple weeks, I would suggest slowing down in a space of reflection, because we're in this transitional space. I find that the 7 usually kicks in at the end of January when we drop into the Chinese New Year. And so that's why I like to do these at the end of the year, right before the new year, because we still have time to allow these energies to integrate and then prepare for the next year ahead. Mercury retrograde is a time where we want to, like, the theme is renew, redo, review. It is a time for rest, replenishment, recharge. And so on top of it, with the Pluto, like the Pluto making its way around, a lot of old toxic structures and paradigms can come up, especially in the world. So how does this relate to Earth Angels? The 7 is an energy of introspection. It's an energy where people may start questioning, who am I? Identity. The 7 often reveals things about ourselves that we may not see. Pluto as well is a planet that has a tendency to pull back to reveal what's hidden. So when we think about the energy of the world, if you have been, many of you who are here have been on this spiritual journey, you've been making the adjustments, you have been doing a deep healing, you've been learning, you've been doing a lot of how do I want to say it? You have been understanding your own feminine energy, which is connection, wisdom, feeling, insight, receptivity, right? And you're becoming empowered in that. So next year, for a lot of people who have been on this journey, especially for Earth Angels, next year can be a wonderful year of play and laughter and joy, especially if you have these gifts to share. The world is ready to receive them. In the shadow, the 7 year can often bring up depression. Sometimes we can see an influx of suicide, overdose. Therapists, if there's any intuitive or therapists online, next year is a year that people have a tendency to want to clean house, to want to gravitate towards doing the deep inner healing. And so there is this duality of the 7 that can play out. Now, throughout my lifetime, I've certainly had bouts of depression. And I've learned to balance that with the care of self. So for me, the food that I eat, the time that I spend with myself, what comes in, what is influencing me, all plays a role in my mood and my energy. And so these next couple of weeks would be a really good time for you to review or pay attention to what you're consuming and how it makes you feel. right? So this is not about we have to go on a diet or we have to purge or we have to release. It really is a time to be mindful of what is contributing to the quality of life we want to create for ourselves and what is not. And sometimes that can be painful because they can be people, places, things, ideas that we held near and dear. And sometimes we don't understand why maybe these things work out or they don't work out. We may see things about people that we didn't necessarily see before. And we have the opportunity to choose, is this contributing to the quality of life that I'm creating for myself? Now, one of the things I want to share is that those that, and many of you who are here are in service-oriented fields. I'm looking at your names here, and so many of you have been working on being of service to others. Maybe you have spiritual practices, maybe you've been in caregiving fields, those fields of teaching and nursing and social work. The challenge of the 7 is that those who are empathetic and feel people and their energy, it can be challenging next year for them. And so how can we bring our light? How can we bring our love? How can we bring our gift of service to share? And that's a question. That's a question that we can't necessarily answer now, right? So let me see here. Let me just check in. I just want to make sure I'm covering the energy of the 7. Because everyone on the planet is going to be feeling it. So I'm just going to say it. Spiritual warfare, or it's not uncommon in the 7 that people who can unfortunately manipulate and take advantage using God's name comes to surface. And it makes me sad thinking about it, because we think about all the years where, we have had our wounds with our spirituality and our faith and our philosophies. So it will be a year for people to explore intuition, but it can leave people susceptible to influence. And so that's where I want to share. There's so many of you beautiful healers on this call tonight who have been challenged with where you fit, how to be of service, what type of work you want to do. And I feel like that for the 7, for 2023, that's going to come to us, right? The need is going to come to us. And so all you need to do is have this openness, right? This genuine open heart and open mind. And my thought to God is, how may I be of service? How are my gifts best utilized? And so for me, for example, I have a calendar of services that I offer. And it's so fascinating because there are some times or some weeks that it's all mediumship. And then there are other times where recently it's been more about life purpose. And then I'll have an influx of people asking about classes and trainings. And so what I realized on this spiritual journey is that I have no control. As much as I try to set the plan and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, it usually falls by the wayside. And so I've had this year, I've had this relationship with uncertainty and the unknown, and surrendering into the will of what is. For many of you here, maybe you've read my newsletter, and I talked about how I had all these plans and technology just rejected me. And as much as I wanted to continue with my online readings and card readings, and I wanted to do more podcasting, and I wanted to share, there's so much that I want to offer, the technology that I had wasn't going to support that. And on top of it, grief caught up, right? So, and I have to say, this is the first year that I've had this type of loss in my life that I really had to navigate. And so that stillness and that silence and that that nothingness was my nourishment. And no, I hesitate to say it because I know many of you have been in isolation. I know that a lot of you have been in this space of we haven't been able to go out into the world. And I don't know about you, but here there's a big influx of people getting sick all over again. And the irony is that my cousin who is in Georgia, we were talking today, and she was sharing that there is a stomach bug going around there. And so when we talk about Pluto and this purging and this releasing, a lot of these energies are being flushed out now, but it's helping us prepare and make room for the messages, the guidance and wisdom that's to come. So if there are any of you out there who channel books, messages, blogs, you may get that inspiration again as we start moving into this year, especially starting February. If you haven't been able to do those things, a lot of times, especially in the 6th year, is a time for us to readjust and look at our foundation. Whom are we surrounded by, right? I want to talk about faith for a second. So one of the themes of 7 is faith. And I have been personally on this quest of understanding God and what that is. And I've been curious about a lot of different modalities, a lot of different philosophies. And I have a tendency to really lean on Christianity in the sense of how Jesus was bringing it to the world with oneness and love. And my boyfriend, Nick, he really enjoys Eastern ideologies. And earlier this year, he wanted to take me to what we have here in Cumberland, Rhode Island, the Providence Zen Center. And he wanted me to experience their philosophies and their meditations. And so I was excited about it. It's not a place I think that I would have gone on my own, but with him, it was wonderful. So we went in and there was an introduction. And when you go into this space, you meditate for a long time. You basically sit there for, I think it's 20 minutes, and then you get up and you do like a 10-minute walking meditation, and then you go back in and you sit down. Those of you who may know the Zen Center, I mean, I might not be correct in the minutes, but it is about 20 minutes. And so we had been going a couple times, and I felt this struggle. In some way, I felt like I was cheating on Jesus. And I know that's a mind thing because I know it's all love, right? And so sitting in that space with the Buddha, questioning, what does this mean? What is this? What do I need to know about this space, this energy, this philosophy? And so I sat there and I asked Jesus, I said, Jesus, how do you feel about the Buddha? Or what do I need to know about the Buddha? And again, creating that space of pause and nothingness and stillness and listening, I heard, he is my brother. Love him like you love me. And there was something, I always get emotional when I think about that, because it just filled up my heart. And it's this reminder that we are all one. And for me, as I talk about reintegrating the energy of true love back on the planet, it was a reminder. And I know many of you know this. And as we go into the next year, it's going to be even more poignant that we are all one. There is no separation. There is no better philosophy, different philosophy. It's what we're gravitated towards. So for some of you, next year, you may be on a spiritual quest. You might be exploring and reading and learning about different philosophies. You might be challenged in your own faith by circumstances, by what's happening in the world. And I say that, the world has been in what I say is almost like a spiritual crisis or spiritual process, right? We need to reject. And I was in this space when I started my journey, over 20 something years ago, questioning, pushing it all out of my life. And I believe that many people have been in that space, but through the loss, through the change, through the adversity, through the challenge, and the value of this year and appreciation of genuine love of home and family and community and connection, people are seeking. They're seeking a peace. They're seeking love. They're seeking the identity and the meaning of life. And there are so many of you here tonight that can support them in that. Now, if you yourself have been challenged, so one of the things about my work is I hear it all, the darkest of the dark, the saddest of the saddest. And I see patterns and cycles, the way people come in and they share. And one of the challenges that I've been having lately is people are opting out. They're dying. They're transitioning. There have been a few people that I've worked with this year who had loved ones who weren't feeling well, and they went to bed and they didn't wake up. And we're talking about young people. We're talking about 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s, young people. We're talking about losses that are abrupt. And something awakens in a person after a loss like that. And so some of you who maybe have been working with people have maybe been seeing these changes. And for the Earth Angel who has compassionate love and care for, that type of energy can be challenging for those of you who are in. And so part of my reminder here is that we're needed. We're loved by God. We're needed. The support that we offer, the light that we offer is necessary, especially as we go into this next year. And like I said, for those of you who have been on the spiritual journey, this can be a year of a lot of fun. This can be a year to create and manifest and play in the power of the energy to align to joy and happiness and peace and love. Now, I wouldn't be doing a service if I didn't share the challenges, the adversity, and the difficulties of what could come this year, right? But I want to say, for many of you that are here, as you've been working on this spiritual journey, the energy that will touch you is faith, wisdom, success. What are some other good words? Mysticism, right? And insights. So again, you might develop, you may create, you might move towards creating content that can be of service to others. And in that, you then nurture, nourish, comfort, and support others. So your spiritual disciplines, your spiritual practices are going to be a really important anchor for you as we go into the next year. So just like, I like to use this as an example, just as if you were to go out on a hike in the summer, out in the woods, you're going to get dusty and dirty, and you're going to need to go home and take a shower, and sweaty, right? You're going to need to go home and take a shower. So this is what's going to be important as we go out into the world and we're sharing and we're out there, is practicing a cleansing, a clearing of our spiritual practices. So it would be like going home and taking a shower, right? It's part of the experience. And so sometimes we as earth angels have a tendency to put what we need aside to be able to take care of others. But this year would be a wonderful year to get back to those daily mantras or the prayers, or even if it's just the stillness, the silence, the pause, the rest, the nothingness. That is going to be the nourishment and the soul food that's going to light you up. It is going to be what will help you remain energetically abundant as we go into the next year. It's going to help you align and stay connected. So I've been really starting to practice working with that energy, especially as I was going out around the holidays. It can be obviously really busy and challenging, and there were a lot of people out there complaining about the lines and things like that. And so my intention when I went out into the world was just to be, just to not be in a rush, just be, and just see how it works out. And there were so many times I would call my mom after and I would say, oh my gosh, I got in and out of there so fast. I feel like I cheated, right? Or, oh my gosh, I was standing there in this big long line and then the register right in front of me opened up and I was able to scoot in. And I just laughed that I have a choice, or we have a choice of where we're going to align and how we want to choose to have the experience. Now, that doesn't mean I walked in and I'm like, I'm going to choose to have the best experience. I was, what I learned was that I was okay with where I was. I was at peace with that. And if I had to wait, I was going to wait. And I was going to release any resistance to it. And that's one of the things that we're going to learn as we go into this next year, is as we release the resistance to fighting something, challenge, adversity, we might find that it opens up space for something even better to show up. And so these are the insights that a lot of people have a tendency to see in the 7 year, the 7 energy. And that's why I say it can be really fun. And so here I am in this space, like, God is so good. And that was so fun. And, oh my God, Ma, I thought I was going to be there forever. And this happened. And I'm thinking, why? Why did that happen? And for me, it was the acceptance of what was, the releasing of the resistance. And that gave opportunity, the energy of opportunity to open up and play with me. Now, those were just very minor 3D world things, but we can certainly do that on a grander scale. So learning how to work with these energies, releasing resistance to, and having an openness, or sometimes it's this acceptance, is if this is where I'm at, then I'm okay with it. And then from there, usually something else opens up, right? Opportunities, another way opens up, insight, ideas. That's where we're going to get in touch with that well of intuition and insight that is within us. Oh, there's a lot. 7 is a big year. So the odd number years tend to be challenging if we're not aware of it, but it doesn't have to be. So if you are doing meditation and prayer and setting intentions for the next year, maybe not resolutions, this would be a good time to ask yourself, what is sacred to me? What do I hold dear? That can shine a light and give some insight into your own identity, your own gifts, parts of you that might be revealed in 2023. So when I started making adjustments in my life so that I could practice self-care and deep healing, I discovered time, the beauty of time and the beauty of nothingness. And I really enjoyed the time with myself to learn. Now, I have to say, coming from my past, the self-love or the love of self is something that I had to work hard on embracing. And so being in that space of learning in nothingness so that I could heal, it opened up and shine a light on these other parts of me that I never really gave room for, that I never really allowed. And so many of you, I really pray that next year you will be enlightened and consumed with the joy of discovering new parts of you that you haven't been able to if you've been in service. A lot of you have made changes to your home, right? Your family, community, being able to go into that space of who am I? What is this quest? And so for me, one of the things I love about myself is that I enjoy being funny or having fun and laughing. And for the most part, my life has been serious. It's been work and responsibility. And so this year, in this nothingness, in this break, in this sadness of healing that I was going through, I discovered this joyful part of me that I very much enjoy on my own with myself. And I was never really able to see it or experience it. And so I pray that as we move into the next year, if you're still making adjustments, that the divine showers you with a love and a light for you to be able to discover and explore other avenues and other parts of you, because you've done the healing, because you've done the shifting and the changing up until this time. And, you know, your clients or the people that you work with will also reflect that back. So I'm just going to pause for a moment. I want to look at my notes. And if there are any questions, if there's anything that I've said that I'd like me to touch more on, feel free to write that in the chat box. And I just want to check in with my notes. I'm saying a lot here. All right, I do. Okay, so again, if you want to write, you can write in. So next year, the key word or the theme of the year is faith. It's an inner year. It is a time to study. It's a time of reflection, and it's a time of self-analysis. And I feel like many of you have been doing that up until this point. It says the number 7 always reveals things that one normally does not see. This would be a time for you to look over your life. For those of you who may have just joined a little bit later, the 7 looks back at the numbers 1 through 6 prior. So as we go into this next year, it's not uncommon that we start to look backwards. And this is where sometimes people can be challenged with depression or sadness of what was. So this is where that extra nurturing and love is going to be really important now as we go forward. It's a year to meditate and be introspective, curious, right? This is a spiritual year, so allow your soul to grow, whatever that means, right? So many of you may explore different philosophies, and you might question your own faith. There were a few people this year who came into my office who were really challenged with the spiritual organization that they were part of. And sometimes when we're squeezed in those areas, it gives opportunity for us to seek alternatives and other options. And so some of you may be called to step up in those fields. So maybe you do have a community. Maybe you do have a spiritual group you're working with, and maybe you've been hanging back. This may be the year that you're called to leadership, that you're called to stand in your power as an earth angel here. Oh, good question. So should we still use Doreen Virtue cards? Talk about spiritual curiosity, right? So my journey started with her. And for those of you who don't know Doreen Virtue, she was somebody who opened space for a lot of us on the spiritual journey. And so we have to remember that at the time of her creating her cards and her books, we have to remember that she was channeling that information from a higher source, right? And I know a lot of people who still connect and they resonate with the love of the messages that come from those cards, separate from the person. Now, what I do know about Doreen is that she was born into a very new age community. She said often that she was surrounded by a lot of the new age philosophies, the metaphysics, and she didn't necessarily have the religious foundation that many other people had, right? And so a lot of people who have been on these spiritual journeys have this core old religion paradigms and eventually started to outgrow or question those philosophies, which led a lot of us to where we are today. You know, we have our core foundation, but we have those things that we really hold near and dear and hold sacred. And so I'm not necessarily one to say this is good, this is bad, this is right, this is wrong, this is positive, this is negative. It would be how your energy resonates with the energy of those cards and decks. Now, I have to say, it's funny that you say that because I am going to pull some cards. And that's one of the things I wanted to do a mini reading and insight for you. And one of the cards that I pulled out was her EarthAngel Oracle cards. And I love these, and I say her, but remember the divine used her as a vessel to share. And then when she had work to do on her own journey, she made a change. Just like this year, I had some work to do on my own journey. So I could no longer be available at the capacity that I was. And so remember, we have this human part of us and we have this divine part of us in equal, 100% human, 100% divine. I like to think about Jesus when I talk about our divinity and our humanity, right? He was a man of love, and he was also a man that would flip tables, right? Because of the injustices. So we have to remember that we have these parts of us, and sometimes we have to pull back and we have to work on our physical human body, which is what some people like to call our shadow self, right? It's the parts of us that we don't necessarily want to look at. It's the ego. It is shame. It is guilt. It is fear, right? And so these are parts that we have to sometimes take pause and look at and review. I mean, of course, it's wonderful to work and it's wonderful to be sharing and channeling and working with people. But if we're not practicing that soul mission, the work we do in service of others, and the spiritual journey, the way we nourish our own soul food, right, our own bodies, then what happens is that it gets too far ahead and we need to pause and take a break for our own soul mission, the work that our soul has come here to learn, right? And we have themes of our life. So with regards to the cards, it's a soul journey. Personally, I still love them. I still use them. And the messages that come out through the work that I do are incredibly loving. And so that's why I started the YouTube channel that I was doing, is to share the abundance of love that can be channeled through these mediums, through these sources. Now, Doreen has moved on, right? She's gone on her own journey, and these cards are no longer available. So I find that I treasure these and I honor them. There's a spot like over there where I keep them. Sacred. They're a sacred tool for me. And so I choose to continue to use them. But there are also many other, since she's shifted, there have been so many other developers of cards that have changed the face of the traditional cards and the way that we've used them. And they are multifaceted. They are multicultural. They are modern. They are artsy and dynamic and versatile, and they seem to suit a larger population of people who are in the spiritual realm. And I think it's beautiful. And so I feel like for her on her own journey, her time to give and to share at the volume and capacity that she did was wonderful. And she chose to shift.
Well, she's
Oh, there we go. She chose to shift and now work in the light in a different way, right? And this, again, these are the questions that we're going to have of the philosophies and what fits us, what suits us. You see here, what guide or practice might be supportive if all of the grounded pieces in my life have dissolved? Homework. Yes. So let me see. Yes. So Ellie, that's exactly the discovery that I'm talking about. Hold on, let me just read that again and connect with it. So one of the things that I find nourishing for grounding and connecting is that stillness, the silence, the rest, the quiet, the nothingness. Remember, we have a tendency to be in an action-oriented world. I've got to do something about this. And that has a tendency to be a lot of the spiritual teachings that we've learned. Do the bubbles of light, do the colors, do the things, right? Where now we're getting into a space of exploration. And so one of the things I want to remind us of is that intuition and healing and energy work that so many of you are doing now. How do I want to say it? We are able to now explore these avenues in a way that we've never been able to before, because a lot of it has been demonized. So there's more and more people that are gravitating towards herbalism through oils, right? Essential oils, through alternative forms of healing. There are a lot of people who are now delving back into that different ways of taking care of the self in a way that we haven't been able to before. And so Ellie, one of my responses is to that. So the question was, what guide or practice might be supportive if all the grounding pieces in my life have dissolved? That exactly is what the journey is of the 7, of exploration, of trying different avenues. Now, for me, I always recommend starting off with stillness and the inquiry of the divine. God, how do I, or God, show me truth, or God, show me what would be the best way to ground or navigate forward, and creating space to listen, right? So there's a difference between the mind and what the heart says. And so that is a part of what we're going to be learning next year. And in that, Ellie, in that self-discovery, that's going to be the beauty of what you share with others, your story, right? We're getting back to that gatherer energy. So many people for so long have been on that New York hunt, city that never sleeps, constantly going, doing, sharing, giving, right? We're now spinning back over. The pendulum is swinging back into that gatherer energy, sharing our stories. And in turn, that's where we find connection with people that in turn feels supportive, healing, and grounding. And remember, not everybody I believe not everybody is worthy and deserving of your story, right? Of your gifts. So let me just see that I have. Yes. So, so the grounding, I would practice what that stillness, that rest, that silence, that nothingness is. And remember, when you do that, healing ensues, right? Anything that's not a vibrational match, as you expand in love, anything that's not a vibrational match needs to come up and out. And that's where patience with the process and learning is so important. Yes. Yes. So yes. So she said, my desire to serve and need for income inhibits me from going solo at this time. And that is where, so in my practice, when I started, I had a job that I was doing per diem. I was a paralegal working in a law firm doing real estate. When I got let go from that position, 2 weeks after I let go, I started my practice. And for a few years while I was doing that, I did work for an attorney per diem for that income. And so that's another thing that we have to remember, is that money and multiple streams of income can come in many different ways. You know, I want to also to like when the pandemic hit, and I had just moved into my apartment, and my office had to shut down, and they wouldn't come into my apartment because of the COVID restrictions. So I found myself in a place of incredible fear because all my streams of income were non-existent. And I didn't know when or how I was going to be able to support myself. And so one of the things that I did was I laid down. I didn't have any furniture at the time either because everything shut down. I laid down on the floor and I invited in Lakshmi. When we're talking about abundance and income and feeling grounded, I invited in the energy Lakshmi and God. And I just asked them for support. And again, for me, that's where I said this, I went right to the stillness. I went right to relaxing, softening, and open to another way. And so sometimes that can be grounding in of itself, back on the floor, right? If you're into yoga, pulling out that yoga mat and laying down, softening and opening. And this is the challenge when we're squeezed in a way of what's not working. It opens up avenues to the possibilities of what could be. And so one of the things I like to, share is that the practice that I have, the business that I've had for 15 years is incredibly uncertain. I never know where my income is going to come from. I never know who's going to book an appointment. I never know what's going to be said. I never know who's going to walk through the door, right? And so there's an incredible amount. And now I said on a deep level, I should say, I do know that creator is the source, right? And so it activates a lot of uncertainty, right, in my life. And this is what happens with like entrepreneurs or people who have spiritual gifts and want to share. And we need income, right? We need work. And so it's very common that we get lifted up. And so for me, I have to balance my life with certainty, right? And so for a long period of time, I needed to take that time out and make adjustments with my own finances. So I did. I worked those different jobs or those different projects until I could create a level of security, right? And certainty which gave me space and room to feel grounded, safe, and protected. So I don't know if I'm getting off here with money, but again, these are part of the experiences and the uncertainty we feel, especially going into the 7 and wanting to share our gifts, right? And then also needing income, and then also too receiving income compensation for the work that we're doing, right? Let me check in here. Lakshmi, oh good, you have Lakshmi. Okay, so let me see here. Yes, so we talk about working with different kinds of people. It would be like that spiritual shower. So for those of you who are in environments where there's a lot of chaos, where there's a lot of pain, you know, some people are in hospitals, environments where there's a lot of chaos, nurses, teachers, social workers, prisons. You know, I've seen quite a few correction officers this year, and firefighters and police officers. You know, those masculine energies are also making the changes. And so this is where, Shayla, that's where our spiritual disciplines are going to matter the most. So when we go into those environments, we do have to practice that spiritual shower or that cleanse. For me, I like to use the Archangel Michael. So here, for example, I have this Michael medal that I carry, and he's in my office a couple times. And there's also an Archangel Michael morning prayer, especially when you're going into those social services, the intensity of those energies. You always want to call on and work with the Archangel Michael. But when you come home, being able to sit down and put your feet up and access what I call that flow of love inside, right? Because the system is on overload, especially with all the energies. And it's not uncommon that that energy can affect us till days after. And so this is where those spiritual practices are really important. So when I come home from work, I'm able to give myself some space. And I know when I haven't done that, because sessions will sit on me, or I'll feel really bad, or I'll feel really sad for, and I'll feel like it is still lingering with me. There is also too, Steve Noble. Steve Noble, let me see if I can write his name in here. He is on YouTube, and he has some incredible meditations. Ellie, this could also be helpful too. He has some incredible high vibrational meditations with cleansing and clearing and releasing. Now, the challenge is we have to go to those things, right? If you are on, I was just going to say that, Kim, yes. If you're on Insight Timer, he has some wonderful meditations on that. So Insight Timer is another app that I recommend people go to when they're spiritually seeking. There's a lot of guided meditations, but there are a lot of really wonderful, caring, genuine teachers on there that are full of love, who share their content. So I have to say, I am on there as one of the teachers. My Angel podcast that I had done a few years ago is on there. But you'll find people like Steve Noble, and you'll find very beautiful, heart-based, loving, spiritual people who are sharing their gifts. So, and that can be another thing. If it's something that you need support with, going to things like that can be incredibly beneficial. I have always found great benefit in Steve Noble's work, and he works with the archangels. And, you know, I don't know how it works, but I always feel energetically empowered, uplifted, and abundant after his work. Oh, thanks, Kim. Oh, good. So Marilyn, Steve is a resource. Yes. So he is somebody that I have found has been really great when we need a deeper level of support. And you just want to relax, soften, and open and listen. And I have to say, if you are on this spiritual journey, he offers a lot of really great insight about these esoteric teachings in a way that I have not heard them before. But he does have one that's about cleansing, clearing, and purging. And so Shayla, for example, something like that would be beneficial to go to. Now, I very much enjoy YouTube for like the videos and stuff. So I will go to YouTube and I'll just search Steve Noble cleansing, clearing, and he has one that's about 15-20 minutes, because some of his are long. Some of them are 45 minutes. Some of them are an hour long, but he does have one that's short that you can certainly benefit from. Let me see here. I hope this is helpful. Good here. All right. I would like to pull some cards. I think that's one of the favorite things that I love to do. I haven't done this in a while for a group. So before I do that, I just want to share again next year. So the color for next year is purple and violet. So if you need that support, that love, if you think about third eye, crown chakra, the upper chakras, these are the feminine chakras, wearing purple or violet can be very supportive next year. If you're into crystals, the amethyst, having amethyst, I think I have one around. I had one somewhere, it's not here, but it's a purple stone. And that is something, and what that does is it's a really great cleanser and detoxifier. So when we talk about grounding and healing, sometimes just sitting with the crystals and the stones in stillness, allowing the energy to work for us is also a beautiful way for support. The mantra next year, I enjoy the inner quest and find many answers. So again, introspection, faith, spiritual curiosity. Unfortunately, a lot of times people come to these things after bouts of depression or chaos or confusion or uncertainty, but it's all beautiful. It's all loving. And it's a way that we find our way, you know. So for me, I found my pathway, my journey here through that dark night of the soul, right? And so that can certainly surface next year for people. And if you can remind them that they're well on their way, right? There's been a lot of loss, right? And so people are still in the space of healing. And again, reintegrating that energy of true love back on the planet. And it starts with love of self. Now, I myself is experiencing this, and many of you may as well start experiencing this, but it's about this point that as you've been doing the work on your self-healing, your self-journey, it's about this point that you start aligning to people, places, things, and ideas that are a byproduct to the changes that you have been going within. So it's not uncommon that we start to see really beautiful spiritual partnerships take form. So if you're out there and a partnership, a companionship, a romantic relationship is something that you've been making adjustments for yourself, this is a time where those can start coming into our lives. Because again, reintegrating the energy of true love on the planet is even more wonderful when it's shared. So I want to speak to that as well. So we're in this space where divine partnerships are starting to come in. What is it that I want? How do I want to contribute? How do I want to share? And what is important to me? What matters to me? So in my partnership, food is important to me. Political views, meaning how we contribute to humanity, how we're of service, our views of caring for people. And then, and my spirituality, my faith, those are the top 3 non-negotiables. And so when I said to God, here you go, this is my faith. This is food is important to me, and having somebody that's aligned to that is important to me. You know, this person came into my life, and the beauty is that even though I experienced a lot of loss, I also had some really beautiful blessings, and I really had a lot of time to enjoy this partnership, this relationship, and nurturing this space that we're in. So it really is beautiful. So I want to speak to that too, that if you're in partnership and companionship, this is a year where those relationships can really flourish. They can really deepen, again, with laughter, play, adventure, fun, and freedom. If you've been in that space of I'm ready to receive, right? This is a time when those energies can come in, especially if it's aligned to your own faith and your own values and belief systems. Is there an angel guide for helping to connect to a spiritual soulmate or partner? Yes, Amy. Shamuel. Chamuel. Shamuel is a great angel guide. And what's funny is Angel Shamuel is the angel of lost things. And so sometimes on these journeys, we can feel like that companion, that romantic partner is lost. And so again, being open in space and inviting in the angel Shamuel to help assist bringing that into our life. Now, personally, I also included the goddess Guinevere. I worked with the goddess Guinevere and the god Eros, E-R-O-S. And Eros works with an arrow. Because I had a thought of whom should be in my life, I had to relinquish, how can I say? I had to trust that if the will of God was for me to be with myself, I was okay with that. And I mentioned this earlier, sometimes when we release the resistance to something and we open up to the acceptance of what is, that's when energy shifts. Now I can say with regards to a partnership, I did not want to let go of the fact that I needed to do something about companionship, partnership, and relationship, putting myself out there, being on the apps, you know, doing all the praying and the manifesting. And there was a point where it was becoming depressing and just sad. And so that's where I took that time out. And I said to God, I said, God, I'm really scared. I said, I don't trust in your ability to bring in somebody in my life that's better than I could have imagined. And so that's where I shared the fears that I had. And then I continued to release and surrender and really continue to just enjoy my life that I had created in singledom. And I had gotten to the point where I had accepted, if this is the space for me, I love my life. If this is where I'm at, there was a peace, there was a satisfaction that I'm good. And then in turn, that's when things started to shift and Nick came into my life. So I don't know if this is helpful on that journey, but again, spiritual partnerships can really flourish and come in this year. So if you want to open up space, Guinevere, Shamuel, and Eros, the god Eros, were the three beings that I worked with. In that time, I put them on it, and then I got busy with my work and my life and nurturing the relationships I had in my life and my career, and I let them to it. And like I said, Nick came into my life exactly at the right time. You know, I always say God is never early, he's never late, and he's always right on time. And so it's been a year and a half for us now. We've been on this journey. So Amy, I hope that's helpful. Angel Shamuel, he's also the angel of peace, and his color is mint green. And so if you're a person who likes to color or imagine yourself in that space, you'll also know Shamuel is around because he'll send the mourning doves or the peace doves or the turtle doves. I don't know. I think they're just mourning doves, but it's the two turtle doves or the two doves that stick together. I don't know if they're out now. They coo when they fly, but that's a sign that Angel Shamuel is around. All right, so let me see here. I'm going to pull some cards for us. So with everybody who's still on, so great. So we still have about 24 people sharing energy and space. So I'm going to ask the angels for what angel would like to support the group going forward as we go into 2023. What is the most important angel that would be most beneficial to us going forward? So I just like to shuffle the deck and wait for one to pop out. Oh, of course. This is so perfect. So Angel Raziel, spiritual understanding. And again, this card couldn't be any more perfect for the 7-year ahead. So he works with esoteric teachings. He helps us to understand things about the spiritual journey that are challenging or difficult to understand. The message here says, I am bringing you esoteric information and symbols and helping you understand spiritual truths. I mean, how perfect. And as I was just talking about the peace dove right up top, right? So working with the Holy Spirit, that is another beautiful energy to work with next year. So Raziel is also the angel that works with time management, and he helps to stretch time or shrink time. So if you're not getting enough sleep at night because you're buzzing with all the energy, you can invite Raziel into your dreams. You can invite him into your life, and you can ask him to stretch time before you go to sleep at night so that it feels like you're getting, I usually say 10 hours sleep. If you are challenged with a very busy schedule, you can ask him to stretch time so that you have enough time to get everything done. And if you're late, if you're running late, you can also work with him. But with regards to the 7, he can really help us understand. So if you are wanting to explore spiritual avenues and different philosophies, you can ask him for some support in where to begin. So the next one, so there's 3 decks here that I want to use. The next one that I want to use is the Angel Power Wisdom cards. These are action cards. So Raziel can support us on the spiritual journey next year. And what action steps can we take to support our healing? What is the most important action steps that we need to hear, see, feel, and know going forward? Let's see here. There we go. Beautiful souls, you inspire and uplift others. How beautiful. So that's our action steps for next year. How can I be of service? Uplifting and inspiring others. And sometimes that is just sharing our story. That is kind words. It's a smile. Sometimes it's being in a very busy, chaotic space and offering that love. So how beautiful are these action steps? So which is really nothingness, because you're already inspiring and uplifting others. So beautiful. And then finally, I'm going to finish with a prayer, an angel prayer for us. What is the most important prayer for the group to hear, see, feel, and know? Trust your vibes. I mean, look at these colors. Do you see the violet? Do you see the purple? I don't know what I just did with. I don't know what I just did with. Where are you? Put him somewhere. Oh, here he is. Look at these colors. Do you see the purples? Do you see the indigos and the violets? This is the color. This is the energy of next year. Trust your vibes. Share and uplift others. Share your spiritual teachings and insights, or learn. I mean, how perfect. And if you look here, we have the heart, and then we have the heart at the heart. And again, it goes along with reintegrating the energy of true love back on the planet, right? The higher self. I always love doing cards. I do. I miss those of you who have been following the YouTube channel and the readings. I wanted to do a Christmas one, and I got sick and I caught the flu. So again, all these little things where I've been wanting to share, they just haven't worked out, but I do hope to get back to it, because again, these are the beauty. This is the beauty of what comes up in these. All right. I think I've shared everything on my notes. And again, going forward, what is sacred? What do you consider to be holy and deserving respect? And what do you consider to be the need to be honored? So if anything, that could be a beautiful inquiry question going forward on your journey. All right, so I am going to close space. Again, I never know how this is going to go. It's not very comfortable for me doing something live and being exposed and sharing and channeling. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being open. Of course, as you know, if I can support you in any way, you can always send me an email, or obviously you can always come into the office or online, and we can share. But please know that your gifts are needed. There is so much support that people need in this world. Oh, there's so much. Earth angels embody so much love that's needed on this planet. And I know it's not often received. valued or appreciated. So please know, from my heart to yours, I see you. I've worked with you. I know the gifts that you have to offer, and God appreciates you. The divine loves you so much. And again, so often the divine will tell people, if you could only see what they see from above, we would never question our own gifts and our own love ever again. And that's part of the journey, right? Especially the journey of the 7. All right, well, let me close space for us. So I'm coming out of your energy. Let me thank all your guardian angels and guides, the archangels, the ascended masters, the divine mother and father, and all their holy beings of light that assisted with this guidance for us tonight. And I'm going to ask that any healing that was started tonight continue for as long as it needs to be done, in mind, body, spirit, and emotions in all ways. And remember, tonight could have been a refresher. There could have been a lot of insights that were shared that you already know, so it reinforces. There could be a lot of new information that you're ready for, or there could have been things that I said that made no sense at all, and we were planting seeds. So I usually say, just allow the energies and information to integrate. There's nothing more that you have to do now going forward. The shifts, the adjustments, the attunements have been made. And so all you have to do is relax, breathe, soften, and open to the will of what is. And again, I just encourage you to enjoy your life. All right, friends, thank you so much for being here. Maybe there'll be more in the future. Stay connected to my email list. That is going to be the way that I go forward in connecting and sharing. So if you're on the email list, maybe there'll be more emails. I make no promises anymore, but know that I'm loving you and sending you so much appreciation. All right. Have a great night. Bye.